Let me ask you something real. How confident are you that the woman you're investing in today won't betray you tomorrow? Because the truth is, love isn't enough. Attraction isn't enough. And hope definitely isn't enough. Without loyalty, everything falls apart, and the cost is devastating. You lose years, confidence, and the ability to trust again. But here's the good news. Loyalty isn't a mystery. It's written in her character. And there are 5 qualities that reveal everything you need to know. If she has them, you can finally breathe easy. These are the 5 qualities that guarantee she'll never cheat on you. And here's where most men go wrong. They assume loyalty takes time to reveal itself. In reality, it shows up instantly in the way she handles herself. Let's begin with the very first quality. Number 1, emotional maturity. If you want to know whether a woman is capable of staying loyal, the very first thing you need to look for is emotional maturity. Because here's the truth. An immature woman doesn't need another man to betray you. All she needs is her own ego feeling hurt, and she'll find a way to destroy everything you've built together. That's the silent danger most men never see coming. Now, emotional maturity isn't about never getting upset. Every human being gets frustrated, angry, or disappointed at times. The real test is how she handles those emotions. Does she confront problems directly, or does she shut down and run away? Does she communicate openly, or does she play manipulative games to make you guess what's wrong? An emotionally immature woman is a ticking time bomb. She sulks, she withdraws, she punishes with silence, and sooner or later she'll look for validation outside the relationship just to soothe her fragile self-esteem. But a woman with emotional maturity, she faces the storm head-on. She knows that running away from conflict only makes it worse. Instead of expecting you to read her mind, she tells you what's bothering her. She doesn't sugarcoat it, but she doesn't weaponize it either. And when she makes a mistake, she owns it. She doesn't shift the blame. She doesn't throw excuses around. She takes responsibility. That is the mark of a partner who values the relationship more than her pride. You'll notice something else too. She doesn't hold grudges. Once a conflict is resolved, it's done. She doesn't drag old arguments into new fights. She doesn't keep a record of every time you messed up. Why? Because she's playing for the long game, not for the cheap thrill of winning an argument. That's what loyalty looks like at its core. Here's why this matters so much. An emotionally immature woman will constantly be tempted to look for relief outside. When she feels unappreciated, she'll flirt with someone else just to remind herself she's desirable. When she's angry with you, she'll vent to another man instead of working it out with you. And slowly, step by step, she walks down the slippery slope toward infidelity. It never starts with the act itself. It starts with her inability to face discomfort and deal with it in a healthy way. An emotionally mature woman, on the other hand, sees cheating for what it really is. Not just a betrayal of you, but a betrayal of the partnership you've built together. She knows that stepping outside isn't going to solve anything. It's just going to ruin the very thing she's invested in. And because she's invested, she protects it. So how do you spot this quality before it's too late? Watch how she communicates when she's upset. If she clearly expresses her feelings instead of making you guess, that's a good sign. Notice how she reacts when she makes a mistake. Does she own it, or does she immediately try to blame someone else? Pay attention to whether she forgives once an issue is resolved, or whether she keeps resurrecting old arguments like a weapon. A woman who passes these tests is showing you she has the tools to stay committed for the long run. You won't have to constantly wonder if she's out there seeking attention, because she doesn't need it. Her strength comes from within, not from external validation. And let's be brutally honest. If she fails these tests, you're not just looking at someone who might hurt your feelings. You're looking at someone who could waste years of your life. Emotional immaturity doesn't magically improve once you're committed. It usually gets worse under pressure. Don't ignore the signs. Because at the end of the day, loyalty isn't just about promises. It's about how a woman handles the tough moments when emotions run high. If she has the maturity to face conflict, communicate openly, and protect the bond you share, then you're with someone who doesn't just talk about loyalty, she lives it. Number 2, respect for boundaries. If you want peace of mind in a relationship, you need to know whether she respects boundaries, not just yours, but her own. Because let's be real, cheating almost never begins with the act itself. It starts with blurred lines, a harmless text, a coffee that doesn't mean anything, a conversation that feels innocent until it isn't. And before you know it, loyalty has been compromised, not with one big decision, but with 100 small ones. A loyal woman understands that boundaries aren't restrictions, they're protections. She knows that respecting your individuality, your time, and your emotional security is essential. She doesn't push you into things you're uncomfortable with, and she expects the same from you. But most importantly, she draws a clear line between the relationship and the outside world, and she refuses to cross it. That means she's not entertaining flirty messages from her coworker just for fun. She's not keeping in touch with an ex for closure. She's not feeding her ego by letting random men linger in her DMs. Why? Because she respects the sacred space you've built together. When no one's watching, she still upholds the boundary. That's real loyalty. Transparency is one of the biggest signs here. A woman who respects boundaries doesn't make you play detective. She's not hiding her phone, being vague about where she's going, or making you guess who she's spending time with. And let's be clear, transparency doesn't mean reporting every detail of her life to you. It means being open enough that you never have to wonder if something shady is going on. Think about it. If she's going to hang out with male friends or colleagues, she makes sure you know who they are. She doesn't wait for you to find out by accident. She takes steps to make sure you're comfortable with the situation. She doesn't just avoid crossing the line. She shows you exactly where the line is, so you're never left in doubt. Another big sign. She shuts down inappropriate behavior right away. If another man flirts, touches her in a way that's not okay, or makes a suggestive comment, she doesn't entertain it. She makes it clear she's unavailable. A woman who values boundaries doesn't leave doors open for temptation. She locks them before anyone can even try to walk through. Why does this matter so much? Because cheating is rarely about a single moment of weakness. It's almost always about the pattern of little boundary-crossing behaviors that build up over time. An innocent coffee with an ex stirs up old emotions. A friendly message becomes emotional validation. And before you know it, the line between friendship and infidelity has disappeared. When a woman respects boundaries, you don't have to live in constant suspicion. You're not left second-guessing every interaction, every notification, every time she steps out of the house. You have peace of mind because you know she's protecting the relationship, not putting it at risk. So here's how you can tell. First, she doesn't play games with jealousy. She's not trying to make you insecure by talking about other men who find her attractive or flirting in front of you to keep you on your toes. That's childish. Second, she's upfront about her friendships. If she has close male friends, she introduces you. There's no secrecy, no need for you to wonder. Third, she takes action when someone crosses a line. She doesn't laugh it off. She doesn't downplay it. She puts a stop to it. When you're with a woman like this, you feel safe. Not because you're controlling her, but because she's controlling herself. She knows what's at stake, and she's actively protecting it. That's the kind of respect that builds trust. And without trust, there is no real relationship. And remember this, if she disrespects boundaries early on, she'll disrespect them later too. Don't fool yourself into thinking it's just harmless fun, or that she'll grow out of it. Boundaries are either respected or they're not. And if they're not, you're playing with fire. Number 3. Self-confidence. There's a dangerous trap many men fall into. They mistake insecurity for innocence. They see a woman who constantly doubts herself, who needs endless reassurance, and they think she just needs love, and I'll be the one to give it to her. But here's the harsh truth. A woman without confidence in herself will always be vulnerable to outside validation. And that hunger for validation can become the open door to infidelity. Self-confidence doesn't mean she's loud or that she posts motivational quotes on Instagram. True confidence runs deeper. It's about how she values herself, how she treats her own time, how she carries herself when no one is watching. A confident woman knows her worth. She doesn't need constant compliments from strangers to feel good about herself. She doesn't keep an ex on standby just in case. She doesn't fish for approval in her DMs. Her sense of value comes from within, and that's why she's not swayed by the cheap thrill of male attention. Now, think about the opposite. A woman who lacks self-confidence is always chasing something external. If she feels unnoticed, she'll post thirst traps online just to get a flood of likes. If she's upset with you, she might flirt with someone else to remind herself she's desirable. And if she's ever tempted, she's more likely to give in, because she doesn't have the internal strength to say no. That's not loyalty. That's insecurity playing with fire. So how do you recognize the difference? Start by looking at how she carries herself. A confident woman is comfortable in her own skin. She doesn't constantly criticize herself, fishing for reassurance every 5 minutes. She accepts her flaws without spiraling into self-pity. She's not perfect, but she doesn't need to be perfect to feel worthy. Next, notice how she reacts to your success. Does she cheer you on, or does she feel threatened? A confident woman isn't competing with you. She doesn't see your wins as her losses. Instead, she celebrates with you because she's secure enough to know that your growth doesn't diminish her own value. In fact, she takes pride in being by your side as you rise. Another test. How often does she say no? It might sound strange, but a confident woman isn't afraid to turn things down. She doesn't bend over backwards to please everyone because she doesn't need to. That means when another man makes advances, she can shut it down without hesitation. She doesn't flirt back just to be nice. She doesn't keep the door open for attention. She knows what she wants, and she knows what she doesn't. Here's a powerful question you should ask yourself. How does she respond when life doesn't go her way? Because this is where confidence, or the lack of it, shows the clearest. A woman with true confidence doesn't crumble when things get tough. She doesn't spiral into self-doubt or lash out at others. Instead, she handles challenges with determination and grace. She stays grounded. And when a woman can stay grounded in her own life, she can stay grounded in her relationship. This matters because infidelity often comes from insecurity. The woman who constantly doubts her own value will chase the high of being desired by someone new. She'll confuse attention with affection and flattery with love. And you'll be left wondering what went wrong, when the truth is she was never confident enough to choose loyalty in the first place. On the other hand, a self-confident woman gives you freedom. You don't have to worry about what she's doing when you're not around, because she's not out there trying to prove her worth to strangers. She's already secure in who she is. That security allows you to build a relationship based on trust, not constant suspicion. So don't overlook this. Confidence isn't just attractive, it's protective. It shields the relationship from the insecurities that can corrode loyalty. And if you ever find yourself with a woman who needs other men's eyes on her just to feel alive, remember this: she doesn't belong to you, and she never will. Number 4. Aligned values. Love without shared values is like rowing a boat with one paddle. You'll move, but you'll just keep spinning in circles, frustrated and exhausted. This is why so many relationships collapse, not because of a lack of attraction, but because the core values at the foundation never matched in the first place. And when your values don't align, loyalty becomes negotiable. Think about it. If loyalty, honesty, and commitment are values you live by, but she treats them as optional, what do you think will happen when temptation knocks? For you, infidelity is unthinkable. For her, it might just be a joke. If she laughs at cheating stories or shrugs them off like everybody does it, that's not humor. It's a red flag waving in your face. A woman whose values align with yours won't just avoid cheating because she fears the consequences. She won't cheat because it would violate her own code of honor. To her, stepping outside of the relationship wouldn't just betray you. It would betray herself. And that's the difference between someone who stays loyal when it's convenient and someone who stays loyal because it's who she is. So how do you identify whether your values are truly aligned? First, listen to how she talks about relationships. When she speaks about love, does she see it as temporary, or does she talk about commitment, building, and protecting it? Pay attention to how she views honesty. Does she treat white lies as no big deal, or does she hold integrity as non-negotiable? Look at her perspective on family, on loyalty, on long-term vision. These are the compass points that guide her decisions, whether you're around or not. Another subtle sign is how she reacts to other people's behavior. When she hears about someone cheating, does she get angry about the betrayal, or does she brush it off with a cynical laugh? When she sees commitment, does she respect it, or dismiss it as naive? These reactions reveal far more than any words she says directly to you. And here's where many men go wrong. They ignore value mismatches because they're blinded by chemistry, attraction, or the thrill of newness. They assume they can inspire her to adopt their values. But values aren't accessories you put on for someone else. They're the foundation of who a person is. If she doesn't already believe in loyalty, no amount of love from you will reprogram her. You can't negotiate someone into integrity. Aligned values don't mean you agree on every minor preference. It's not about liking the same movies or sharing hobbies. It's about agreeing on the fundamentals. What love means, how trust is treated, and whether commitment is sacred or disposable. When those align, you're building on solid ground. When they don't, you're building on quicksand. This matters because sooner or later, life will test you. Stress, distance, opportunity. These are the moments when values decide whether someone stays true or strays. A woman whose core values align with yours won't even entertain betrayal because it would go against her very identity. That's the kind of loyalty you can trust. So, don't just listen to her promises. Watch the way she lives, the beliefs she holds, and the standards she won't compromise on, because those values will shape every decision she makes when you're not around. And here's the bottom line. Attraction might pull you together, but values are what keep you together. Without them, everything else will eventually collapse. So, don't ignore the signs. Don't lie to yourself thinking chemistry is enough. If she doesn't share your values, you're not building a future. You're setting yourself up for failure. Remember this. Don't put your faith in words or temporary feelings. Put your faith in the values that guide her life. If they align with yours, loyalty isn't even a question. If they don't, loyalty is already impossible. Number 5. Genuine gratitude. There's a hidden truth most men ignore. Cheating often doesn't begin with desire. It begins with neglect. When a woman stops appreciating what she has, she starts looking elsewhere for validation. And that's why gratitude isn't just about saying thank you. It's one of the strongest shields against infidelity. A woman who genuinely appreciates you won't risk losing you for a cheap thrill. She knows the value of what you bring to her life, and she makes sure you feel it. Gratitude keeps her focused on what she has, not what she's missing. It makes her invested in protecting the relationship instead of wandering off to chase illusions. Now, here's where most men get played. They confuse politeness for gratitude. Saying a casual thanks when you do something is easy. Real gratitude is deeper. It's noticing the effort, the intention, the sacrifice behind what you do, and responding in a way that shows she values it. If you cook dinner after a long day, does she just eat it without comment, or does she acknowledge that you went out of your way for her? That difference matters. When a woman practices genuine gratitude, she doesn't just notice, she reciprocates. She finds ways to give back. Maybe it's planning something special for you. Maybe it's being there when you need her most. Gratitude isn't about balance sheets, but about recognition. She sees you, she values you, and she makes you feel like your efforts are worthwhile. That kind of energy strengthens the bond instead of weakening it. On the other hand, a woman who lacks gratitude slowly poisons the relationship. If she doesn't recognize your efforts, she'll start focusing on what she doesn't have. She'll nitpick, complain, and compare. And when that cycle builds, she becomes vulnerable to outside attention, because the second someone else notices her, she'll grab onto it as if it's gold, ignoring the treasure she already had with you. So how do you identify whether a woman has genuine gratitude? Watch for 3 things. First, she acknowledges your actions, both big and small. Whether it's fixing something around the house or listening when she needs to vent, she doesn't let it go unnoticed. Second, she responds with action, not just words. Gratitude isn't passive. It motivates her to give back in her own way. And third, she stays positive about the relationship. Instead of constantly focusing on flaws, she highlights the good, creating an atmosphere of encouragement instead of criticism. Here's why this matters. Gratitude builds a cycle. The more she appreciates you, the more motivated you are to keep investing. The more you invest, the more she feels valued. And in that cycle, loyalty thrives. But when gratitude is missing, the cycle runs the other way. You feel taken for granted. You stop trying. She feels dissatisfied. And suddenly, the door to disloyalty opens wide. Let's be brutally honest. A woman who doesn't value you will always feel like she can do better. And when someone else gives her attention, she'll treat it like an upgrade. But a woman who's truly grateful knows better. She doesn't gamble away a good thing for a fleeting temptation. She protects it. She nurtures it. She makes sure you know how much you mean to her. That's the power of gratitude. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it's the glue that holds loyalty in place. Without it, even the strongest attraction fades into resentment. With it, even the toughest challenges become easier to overcome. So pay attention. Don't settle for politeness. Look for genuine gratitude. Because when a woman truly appreciates you, you'll feel it. Not in grand gestures, but in the everyday ways she shows you that you matter. And that kind of woman, she's not going to risk losing you for anything or anyone. When you step back and look at these 5 qualities together, you realize something powerful. Loyalty isn't random, and it isn't luck. It's predictable. A woman who has emotional maturity, respect for boundaries, self-confidence, aligned values, and genuine gratitude doesn't just avoid cheating. She makes cheating unthinkable. Because loyalty isn't just a promise she gives to you, it's the way she lives. But here's the hard truth you can't ignore. If she's missing even one of these qualities, you need to be alert. Don't lie to yourself. Don't make excuses. Don't assume you can fix her or that things will change over time. Men don't lose because they choose the wrong woman once. They lose because they refuse to see the truth staring them in the face. If she lacks emotional maturity, every fight becomes a test of whether she'll run to someone else for comfort. If she doesn't respect boundaries, temptation is always one innocent message away. If she's insecure, attention from strangers will always pull her in. If your values don't align, loyalty will never mean the same thing to her as it does to you. And if she isn't grateful, she'll always believe the grass is greener on the other side. The mistake too many men make is thinking they can love a woman into loyalty. But you can't teach maturity. You can't force values. You can't beg someone into gratitude. These qualities aren't gifts you give her. They're traits she either already has or doesn't. And if she doesn't, you're fighting a losing battle. But here's the good news. When you do find a woman who has these 5 qualities, everything changes. You stop living in suspicion. You stop doubting her loyalty. You stop wasting energy on anxiety. Instead, you finally get to build something real, something safe, stable, and lasting. Not because you control her, but because she chooses every single day to be loyal. So here's my challenge to you. Stop settling. Stop hoping she'll grow into the woman you need. Start demanding these qualities up front, because you deserve loyalty that isn't fragile, that doesn't depend on fear or control, but on her own strength and character. And if you're ready to draw that line in your own life, here's what I want you to do right now. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button, share this with another man who needs to hear it, and drop the word loyalty in the comments if you're done accepting anything less. Because once you know the truth, there are no excuses. You either demand loyalty or you settle for betrayal. The choice is yours.